Okay, I'm going to share some content with you guys about the 4 stages of enlightenment to help you guys understand what these are and how the mind progresses through these with the understanding that you now have about the jhanas and these enhanced qualities of the mind. That's what helps you to continue forward into the 4 stages of enlightenment. So let's talk about what the 4 stages of enlightenment are. So what the 4 stages of enlightenment are is it's guidance for personal growth, to plot your course towards the elimination of the 10 fetters and 100% of discontentedness. So the plan that the Buddha is sharing with you is helping you to be able to see how you can move forward and progress forward through these stages of enlightenment by eliminating each of the individual fetters. It's a personal growth plan. It helps you to develop the mind and focus it on eliminating the causes and conditions that are producing the mind to stay in the unenlightened state so that you can actually get to enlightenment itself. It's through eliminating the 10 fetters that the mind moves into these 4 stages of enlightenment, where you're experiencing higher and higher degrees of focus and concentration, memory and clarity of mind, all with the gradual decreasing of discontentedness. As your mind's moving through these individual stages, your mind will gradually decrease the discontentedness that is being experienced in the mind. Once the mind is in the 1st stage of enlightenment, it won't regress backwards from there. This is a very important part of your journey to enlightenment, is getting to the 1st stage of enlightenment. But then from there, you can go further. But getting to the 1st stage of enlightenment, your mind won't regress backwards. You also, if you die in the 1st stage of enlightenment, you'll come back into the human realm rather than being reborn into hell, the animal realm, or the afflicted spirits. So let's talk about what the 4 stages of enlightenment are not. They're not something to boast about or claim that you've attained a certain stage of enlightenment. So again, you're not going to probably call up your mom and say, by the way, Mom, I'm in the 1st stage of enlightenment. Aren't you so proud of me? Or you're not going to put this on your Facebook page or something like this. The stages of enlightenment are not something that's only experienced by ordained practitioners. All practitioners can experience any of the 4 stages of enlightenment. Some people will tell you that household practitioners can't get to the 1st or can't get to the 3rd or 4th stage of enlightenment, which is enlightenment itself, the 4th stage. Some people will tell you women can't get to enlightenment. This isn't actually true. All of our minds function in a very similar way. Whether you're wearing an orange robe and shaving your head and living at a temple, or you're living at home, it doesn't matter. You can still train your mind to eliminate these pollutions of mind. You don't have to be an ordained practitioner in order to get to enlightenment. That's one way that some people choose to progress in their journey, is through becoming ordained, but it's not required. You don't have to. You can actually get to all the stages of enlightenment from this lifestyle of household or through ordaining as an ordained practitioner. These stages of enlightenment aren't something to crave or desire or to become obsessed about. That if you're obsessing about these stages of enlightenment, or you're longing and yearning for them, this is going to hinder you from being able to experience them. So you're not interested in craving or desiring or longing or yearning for these things. Instead, stay focused on the 10 fetters and eliminating those. That's what's going to lead to the improvement to the condition of the mind. So here's the 10 fetters. We're going to be talking about these this afternoon. These are the lower fetters. I'm going to go through each one of these in detail, explaining to you the symptoms of them. So you'll hear that this afternoon. These are the higher fetters. So this is what's going to actually be eliminated from the mind in order to move through the stages of enlightenment. As you're eliminating these fetters, you're going to be moving through these 4 stages: stream enter, once returner, non-returner, and arahant. I refer to these as the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th stage of enlightenment, but these are also terms that you're going to see. It's referred to as stream enter because once you enter the stream, you're going to get to the ocean, right? So if a log enters a stream, it's going to eventually get to the ocean. So it's the same thing as once you get to the 1st stage of enlightenment, you will eventually get to enlightenment. It's only a matter of time. A once returner, if this individual dies in this stage of enlightenment, they're going to come back to the human realm one more time and get to enlightenment in that existence. A non-returner, this individual, if they die in that stage of enlightenment, they're going to be reborn in the heavenly realm and they're going to get to enlightenment in that existence. And then an arahant, this is an enlightened being, someone who's fully purified their mind. And then there's something called a Buddha. Okay, So as the mind is eliminating these fetters, the first, second, and third fetter of personal existence view, doubt, and wrong behavior and observances, the mind's in the first stage of enlightenment. And you'll notice a significant decrease of your discontentedness, even more so than when you were in the jhanas. Your discontentedness is just a mere fraction of what it once was. So I'm going to teach you about what these fetters are when we get to this afternoon. But having eliminated these three, that's when the mind's in the first stage of enlightenment. And if you die in that stage of enlightenment, you will come back to the human realm no more than 7 times. So some of you guys could have been stream mentors in your previous lives, and now you're making your way back to that, and then maybe even beyond, right? So then there's once returner. This individual has already eliminated the first 3 fetters, and then they've thinned out number 4 and 5. So they've thinned out sensual desire and ill will. 1 second, I need to do something here. I haven't turned on my slides. There we go. Okay, so they've thinned out number 4 and 5, right? This is sensual desire and ill will. Then if someone dies in this stage of enlightenment, they're going to come back to the human realm one more time and get to enlightenment in that life. So again, some of you guys could have been once returners in your previous life, and now's your opportunity to actually get to enlightenment in this life. Okay. Now there's non-returner. This individual has eliminated the 5 lower fetters: personal existence view, doubt, wrong behavior and observances, sensual desire, and ill will. This has all been eliminated from the mind. Then there's Arahant, or an enlightened being. They've eliminated all the 10 fetters. Their mind is fully purified, and they're no longer experiencing any discontentedness. Because, by the way, as you're progressing from the first stage of enlightenment to once returner, your discontentedness is diminishing. By the time you get to, the third stage of enlightenment, you're experiencing discontentedness like maybe once every 3 months, once every 6 months. You'll have just a little bit of ickiness here and there. You're not getting any kind of extreme rage or anger or anything like that. You just feel a little bit uncomfortable, maybe once every 2 or 3 months. It's very insignificant and it's very infrequent when it occurs. And this is why beings in the third stage of enlightenment can sometimes have some complacency. But you would like to stay dedicated and diligent to your practice and continue to progress forward, not allowing the mind to be complacent. Because even if you're getting discontent once every 2 months, once every 3 months, the mind is not yet enlightened. So you would like to be sure that you continue to stay dedicated and diligent in this stage of enlightenment, so that you can ultimately make your way to the 4th stage, where the mind's fully purified and you're not experiencing any discontentedness. When it's 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and you're not experiencing any discontentedness, you'll know that your mind is enlightened. But I don't suggest that you ever convince yourself that you're enlightened. Just continue to stay dedicated and diligent to cultivation of wisdom. That in order to get to the enlightened mental state, there would have been a significant amount of wisdom that you cultivated in order to get to that point. And you're not going to just stop cultivating wisdom, because this cultivation of wisdom has led to the very best thing that you've ever experienced, which is the improvement to the condition of your mind in your life, to the point where you don't experience any discontentedness any longer. So even in the 4th stage of enlightenment, there's other things to cultivate wisdom about, not just the path to enlightenment. Maybe you would like to be a helicopter pilot, or maybe you would like to do something else. You can cultivate wisdom about those things, because by the time you get to the enlightenment, you will have fully cultivated your mind about the path to enlightenment, and you would have fully transformed the mind to understand the path to enlightenment inside and out. Your mind will be performing optimally at this point, where you'll have focus, concentration, clarity, and deep memory. So if maybe there's something like being a helicopter pilot that you've always wanted to do, but you've never actually done it, and your mind now is performing optimally. Maybe you didn't have the confidence before to do it, but now you do, because your mind is performing optimally. So go do that. Go cultivate wisdom about whatever it is that you like to cultivate wisdom about. There's plenty of things in the world to be able to learn. And an enlightened being is going to be continuing to cultivate wisdom all throughout their life. Okay, so these are the 4 stages of enlightenment. So the way that you attain these 4 stages of enlightenment is you need a well-developed practice of the Eightfold Path, the wisdom, moral conduct, and mental discipline section. That's what's going to get you into the jhanas, and that's also what's going to get you into the stages of enlightenment. You need to know that Eightfold Path inside and out, backwards and forwards. That's why I encourage to actually study it and commit it to your memory so that you've intellectually learned it, that you've reflected on it to verify it, and you're starting to integrate it into your day-to-day life. Learning the Eightfold Path is so important. Then, in order to move through the 4 stages of enlightenment, you would need to eliminate all the 10 fetters. That's what's going to get you to the enlightened mental state. You're going to need to understand dependent origination, the natural law of karma, the 5 aggregates, and the 6 sense bases. You're going to need to know this just to get to the first stage of enlightenment. You're going to need to know these teachings. And that's why in January, I have a retreat where I teach these things. Okay, so you'll be able to learn these either here or online through our live stream. You'll need to have accomplishment in view. This is something that you'll learn in the retreat in January of what is accomplishment in view. Excuse me. But you're going to need to be practicing accomplishment in view. You're also going to need accomplishment in generosity, where you're willing to give and share, live open-handedly, and be joyful in sharing with other people. So I'm going to teach that in the retreat as well. You're going to need to have association with wholesome persons. Whereas if you have people who are into drugs and alcohol and maybe they're doing these kinds of harmful things, you're not going to associate with those kinds of individuals. By the time you get into the first stage of enlightenment, you're going to know that it's unwise to associate with people who are doing unwise things, because those decisions to be friendly in those situations, not friendly, but be their friend or associate with them, it can cause you harm. So if you're walking down the street with a good friend of yours from when you were a child and they're a drug dealer, somebody could be shooting at them and trying to kill them, and then the bullets hit you. This is the karma. This is the results of your decisions to associate with someone who's into unwholesome things. So an individual who gets into the first stage of enlightenment, they will already see that, and they will have acquired friends that are into wholesome things. Then, in order to get into the first stage of enlightenment, you'll need to hear the true teachings. That's what you're learning, is the original words of the Buddha. If you didn't learn the original words of the Buddha, you wouldn't be able to get into the first stage of enlightenment. It would be impossible. You're not going to just stumble into the first stage of enlightenment. You're going to need to have heard the true teachings. Also, you will be paying careful attention to any decisions that you're making, that you're not just haphazardly going through life anymore, because you understand the natural law of karma really well by the time you get to the first stage of enlightenment. And any decisions that you're making, you're going to pay careful attention to them, because any decisions that you make, it's going to produce results, either wholesome or unwholesome. And you're going to pay careful attention to make sure you're making wise decisions more and more and more. You'll be practicing in accordance with the teachings. In terms of the Eightfold Path, you'll be practicing this very closely, that you'll be practicing actually what you've learned. And then you'll be maintaining bodily, verbal, and mental acts of loving kindness, both in public and in private, towards companions on the path to enlightenment. These are actually words of the Buddha, that if you understand from having moved into the first stage of enlightenment, how peaceful and how joyful the mind is, even in the first stage of enlightenment, but then beyond, when the mind's actually enlightened, you're not going to be able to talk negatively or degrading or disparaging about anybody, including those people who are on the path to enlightenment, because you know it's these people that are actually going to help you, that it's people that are going to be supportive and encouraging, and people are on this journey to figure this out themselves, and they're going to be the ones who are going to help you along with your teacher. So the Buddha shares, and I agree, that you would be impossible of having anything other than loving kindness towards people who are on the path to enlightenment. Okay? Any questions on any of this? Okay, so the bulk of this is something that I'm going to teach you this afternoon. I'm going to teach you the 10 fetters. That's what's going to lead to the stages of enlightenment. I'm going to explain to you what they are, and we're going to walk through them so that you guys can understand them and then understand how to eliminate them too. So I'm going to go in more deeply than I went in our previous class yesterday or Sunday. We're going to go through them in more detail. So here it's basically, what is it, 10:30? Is it 10:30? Yeah, 10:35. Okay, so we can get back at 1 o'clock. We're going to do our meditation, and then I'm going to spend the rest of the time teaching you about the 10 fetters, helping you guys understand what those are. So if you guys would like to enjoy your lunch, then we'll come back and I'll teach you guys about the 10 fetters, because that's what's going to help you to be able to get into the 4 stages of enlightenment. So enjoy your lunch, and I'll see you guys at 1 o'clock. Okay.